Rivers are among the most powerful forces in nature. Over countless millennia, they have carved valleys, shaped mountains, and sculpted plains, creating the landscapes we see today. These flowing bodies of water have a profound influence on the earth, acting as both creators and destroyers, constantly molding and reshaping the land in their path. Understanding the role of rivers in shaping landscapes takes us on a journey through time, where we can see how these natural forces have shaped the planet, influencing ecosystems, human settlements, and the very contours of the land. At their core, rivers are moving bodies of water that flow from higher elevations to lower ones, following the pull of gravity. The journey of a river begins with its source, which is often found in the mountains, where snowmelt or rainfall gathers and forms small streams. These streams combine, growing in strength as they descend, becoming larger rivers that travel across vast distances before emptying into lakes, seas, or oceans. Along the way, the river interacts with the landscape in ways that are both subtle and dramatic. One of the most fascinating aspects of rivers is how they shape the land through the process of erosion. As a river flows, it picks up sediment, such as sand, gravel, and silt, and carries it downstream. Over time, the constant movement of water and sediment wears away at the rocks and soil along the river banks and bed, gradually carving out valleys and canyons. The power of erosion is especially evident in places like the Grand Canyon, where the Colorado River has cut through layers of rock over millions of years, creating one of the most dramatic landscapes on Earth. Erosion doesn't just happen in the fast-moving sections of a river. Even in the slowest parts, the water is constantly at work, breaking down the land and carrying it away bit by bit. The meandering paths of rivers across flat landscapes are a testament to the slow, steady power of erosion. As a river flows through a plain, it often twists and turns, creating loops and bends known as meanders. These meanders are formed as the river erodes the outer banks of its curves, while sediment is deposited on the inner banks. Over time, the meanders can become more pronounced, sometimes forming oxbow lakes when a bend becomes so extreme that the river cuts off the loop, leaving behind a crescent-shaped body of water. In addition to erosion, rivers also shape the land through deposition. As a river flows, it carries with it not only water but also the sediment it has picked up along the way. When the river slows down, either because the slope of the land becomes gentler or it reaches a larger body of water, it begins to drop the sediment it has been carrying. This process of deposition creates a variety of landforms, from deltas to floodplains. Deltas are some of the most recognizable landforms created by rivers. These triangular-shaped areas of land form at the mouths of rivers where they meet a sea or lake. As the river slows down, it loses the energy needed to carry its load of sediment, which is then deposited, building up the land over time. The Nile Delta in Egypt and the Mississippi Delta in the United States are classic examples of how rivers create fertile, rich landscapes that have supported human civilizations for thousands of years. Floodplains, on the other hand, are flat, wide areas of land adjacent to a river that are subject to periodic flooding. When a river overflows its banks during times of heavy rain or snowmelt, it spreads out over the floodplain, depositing sediment and nutrients. This process enriches the soil, making floodplains some of the most fertile and productive agricultural areas in the world. However, living in these areas also comes with risks, as flooding can be unpredictable and destructive. Over time, rivers can completely transform the landscapes through which they flow. The river's constant movement gradually lowers the elevation of the land, carving out valleys and shaping mountains. In mountainous regions, rivers often create V-shaped valleys, as the fast-moving water cuts into the steep terrain, carrying away rock and soil. These valleys can eventually widen and flatten, especially as the river reaches lower elevations and begins to meander more. Rivers also play a critical role in creating other geological features, such as waterfalls and rapids. When a river flows over an area of hard rock, it may encounter a sudden drop in elevation, creating a waterfall. The force of the water falling over the edge erodes the rock beneath it, gradually moving the waterfall upstream over time. This process can create dramatic landscapes, such as Niagara Falls, where the river has carved out a deep gorge over thousands of years. Rapids, on the other hand, form in sections of a river where the water flows quickly over a rocky, uneven bed. These turbulent areas of water add to the river's ability to erode the landscape, carrying away sediment and shaping the riverbed. Rivers are not only natural architects, shaping the land through erosion and deposition, but they also provide life to the ecosystems that surround them. The presence of water in a river creates a corridor of life, supporting a diverse range of plant and animal species. Wetlands, which often form along rivers and in floodplains, are particularly important ecosystems. These areas, where the land is saturated with water either permanently or seasonally, act as buffers against flooding, absorbing excess water during heavy rains and releasing it slowly over time. Wetlands also act as natural filters, trapping pollutants and sediments, and helping to improve water quality. The impact of rivers on the landscape is not limited to the physical terrain, they also shape human history and culture. For thousands of years, people have settled along rivers, relying on them for fresh water, food, transportation, and fertile land for agriculture. Some of the earliest human civilizations, such as those in Mesopotamia, Egypt, and the Indus Valley, developed along rivers. The abundance of water and fertile soil allowed these societies to grow and thrive, and the rivers themselves served as vital trade routes, linking different regions and cultures. The cultural significance of rivers is evident in mythology, religion, and folklore. Many cultures have revered rivers as sacred, believing them to be the dwelling places of gods and spirits. The Ganges River in India, for example, is considered holy in Hinduism, and millions of people make pilgrimages to its banks each year to bathe in its waters, believing it will purify them of their sins. In ancient Egypt, the Nile River was seen as the lifeblood of the nation, and its annual flooding was celebrated as a divine event that ensured the fertility of the land. Rivers have also played a crucial role in the development of modern cities and industries. Many of the world's largest cities, such as London, Paris, and New York, are located along rivers. The accessibility of fresh water and the ability to transport goods via river made these locations ideal for settlement and economic growth. Even today, rivers continue to be vital for transportation, irrigation, and hydroelectric power generation. However, the relationship between humans and rivers is not always harmonious. Human activities, such as damming, pollution, and deforestation, have had significant impacts on river systems and the landscapes they shape. Dams, for example, alter the natural flow of rivers, preventing the movement of sediment and disrupting ecosystems. While dams can provide benefits, such as flood control, water storage, and electricity generation, they can also have unintended consequences. In some cases, dams have caused the erosion of riverbanks downstream, as the trapped sediment no longer replenishes these areas. Pollution is another major issue facing rivers today. Industrial waste, agricultural runoff, and untreated sewage are just a few of the pollutants that can enter rivers, harming wildlife and degrading water quality. The consequences of pollution can be far-reaching, affecting not only the river itself but also the landscapes and ecosystems downstream. For example, the introduction of excess nutrients from fertilizers can lead to algal blooms, which deplete oxygen levels in the water, causing fish and other aquatic life to die off. Deforestation, particularly in river catchment areas, can also have a profound impact on rivers and the landscapes they shape. Trees and vegetation help to stabilize the soil and reduce erosion. When forests are cleared, the soil becomes more susceptible to erosion, and rivers can become clogged with sediment, altering their flow patterns and leading to increased flooding. The loss of vegetation along riverbanks, known as riparian zones, can also lead to the destruction of important habitats for wildlife. Despite the challenges posed by human activity, rivers remain powerful forces of nature, continuing to shape the landscapes around them. In many places, efforts are being made to restore and protect rivers and their ecosystems. River restoration projects aim to remove dams, reduce pollution, and replant riparian zones, helping to restore the natural processes of erosion and deposition that have shaped the land for millions of years. As we reflect on the role of rivers in shaping landscapes, it becomes clear that these dynamic forces are central to the Earth's natural systems. Rivers carve valleys, create fertile plains, and provide life-giving water to ecosystems and human civilizations alike. Their constant movement and interaction with the land remind us of the ever-changing nature of the planet. While we may attempt to control or harness rivers for our own purposes, we must also recognize their power and importance, ensuring that they can continue to shape the landscapes and sustain the life that depends on them.